Welcome to What's Up, Punks. Take a look at the myriad subgenres underneath the umbrella of punk. Today, we'll be taking a look at Clockpunk. What is Clockpunk? What if there was a steampunk world where the steam engine just didn't work? So the technologically gifted fell back on what they knew, sprockets and gears, and improving them to greater lengths than in the world we currently occupy. That is Clockpunk. The most advanced technology available is primarily based on winding coils, falling weights, and other forms of potential energy in mechanical form. Clockpunk is set circa 1775, either in actuality or just aesthetics. This is 100 years before the advent of what we now call the Victorian Age, retroactively making it both a precursor and an offshoot of steampunk. Wait, 1775. That is the Renaissance.
Good morrow, fair gentles. Look what I won at the Renaissance Fair.
Nope. All the nope plus 5 pounds, nope. I'll tackle that once we actually do steampunk.
Speaking of which, why did you choose to dress like a leper?
I didn't. This is historically accurate. You all look like you're going to a Renaissance fair.
Now, once someone put pen to paper and said dieselpunk was the halfway point between cyberpunk and steampunk. Yeah, no. If we must have a Neanderthal between our Homo erectus and our Homo sapien of punk genres, diesel ain't it. It's Clockpunk. Technology. Like Daddy Steampunk, we're working with functional magic here. The amount of output to the energy source just doesn't match up. Then again, fuck it. For those not in the know, clockwork is a term applied to devices, not just clocks, which rely on winding mechanisms, e.g. springs first wound by human power, and etc. to produce force and movement. Steam devices do not have such mechanisms. Most of the tech in this punk is inspired by masters like Leonardo da Vinci, creator of the first humanoid robot. Renaissance artists shaped the human mind in the way to accept progress. They planted the seeds of modernism and acted as a base for people to grow. Most Clockpunk stories focus on clockwork towns, like Lidbloom from Final Fantasy IX, Residence of Fate, End of Eternity in the East, Basel, a clockwork tower/city created to help clean the environment. Humans hid there as well to wait out the apocalypse, eventually forgetting the city's original function, building a religion around it. As you do. However, sometimes a clockwork city isn't enough. Sometimes you need a world, a clockwork planet. An anime and visual novel where the original Earth was destroyed and replaced with one of living clockwork by a god called Y. Yeah, one of the other things Clockpunk stories are all about is clockwork gods and automatons. Now, while most Clockpunk is set in alternate reality or a far future, we do have a few that hit closer to home. Weirdly, most of them are documented by our friends at the SCP Foundation.
Item: CSP-172. Object Class: Euclid. Description: CSP-172 appears to be a human being, 34 years of age, 6 feet 1 inches tall, black hair, and a mustache. It weighs 386 pounds and of Russian descent. CSP-172's personality is very friendly and intelligent, if somewhat dull and repetitive. CSP-172 prefers dress from 1860s and always wears a large ornate key on a long necklace. CSP-172 has never identified itself by name and is not upset by being referred to by its designation number. Internally, CSP-172 is a strangely complex automaton, possessing over 2 million moving parts and 18 million components at last count. Component parts appear to be made of glass, silk, wood, steel, brass, rubber, and several other substances. Similarities between this construction and that of CSP-2776 suggest a similar creator or creators. CSP-172 also has several modules that can be installed via a hatch in its chest. These appear to alter behavior, speech, movement, and several parameters based on its position in the body cavity and module components. CSP-172 has 46 modules at current count, having built 3 of these while in Foundation custody. Currently, CSP-172 is loaded with the Engineer module. Modules have been identified by CSP-172 as Caretaker, soldier, medic, mother, and king, though this is by no means a comprehensive list. Under no circumstance are modules to be replaced without O5 level clearance. CSP-172 is powered via a main spring which is wound with the key in CSP-172's possession after inserting into a hole at the base of the neck. CSP-882. Object Class Euclid. Description: CSP-882 appears to be a random assembly of gears, cables, pulleys, screws, and belts, all made of an amalgam of various metals. Object size at time of recovery was approximately 87 cubic meters. Currently, size is approximately 12 cubic meters. CSP-882 rusts quickly in seawater. No identifiable energy source has been found, but all components will begin to move if not coated in rust. CSP-882 is completely silent at all times, no matter what level of activity CSP-882 reaches. Any metal touching the object will become permanently affixed to it, and over a period of few days becomes new parts of the object. Organic material remains unaffected. CSP-882 is extremely resilient, with tensile and strength and toughness above those of aircraft-grade titanium alloy by weight, even though its composition appears to be a random alloy of iron, tin, gold, and other metals, some as of yet undefined. Extreme, focused heat must be applied over several hours to cut even a small portion free of the main assembly. Persons remaining in the vicinity of the object for prolonged periods have developed auditory hallucinations while near the object, mainly the sound of grinding and clicking. The sound intensifies and is abated only by throwing metal into the object. Subjects in advanced states of psychosis have thrown themselves into the object, resulting in almost instant death by crushing. The body is often drawn in and impossible to recover.
There's also SCP-1217, but I've given the SCP enough time on my show. Aesthetic: facades, columns and pillars, arches, vaults, domes, windows, and walls. There are checklists of the Renaissance architecture can be found all over Clockpunk, and for good reason. Just like the tech the subgenre draws its name from, Ren architecture was designed to be both functional and aesthetically pleasing. Ren architecture was well known to be extremely ornate than compared to the more delicate Gothic look. Even if the building has an important job like controlling the gravity, it's still gotta look good. Unsurprising, clock faces or motifs are very present in Clockpunk. Though, as most Clockpunk is off on its own world, it's usually lacking the frescoes and other religious-inspired art of the Renaissance period. However, there is still reverence for the world around it, and the aesthetic never slips into abstraction. And on the clothing side of things, because someone's gonna bring it up, anything you want to Neo-Victorian. What? The Renaissance was not the time of the snappy dresser. And it's one of the parts that firmly reminds us of Clockpunk's origins as a steampunk offshoot. What can I say? It has its daddy's eyes. Where did Clockpunk start? The term was coined by GURPS role-playing system. Yeah, that's it. Talk about humble origins. Okay, it's not it. Clock was envisioned as a way to give the world of generic universal role-playing system a bit more history. For those not in the know, it's basically an open source RPG system that can be modified to fit playstyle, more than the rigid systems like D&D. Real life Clockpunks. The Iron Hand of Gotz von, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Gotz was a plundering knight, a mercenary, in 1504. Had what one would call an on-the-job accident, in the form of getting most of his right arm blown off by a cannon. Gotz was, by all accounts, kind of a dick, with a long list of enemies, so he needed a replacement. Instead of a gold fist like some kind of ponce, it was a mechanical masterpiece. Centuries ahead of its time, the Iron Hand not only allowed Gotz to return to the battle, but also later helped lay the foundation of modern prosthetics. Complete with articulated fingers, spring actions, and an array of levers and buttons, the hand allowed a degree of control that's stunning even today. Fitted with it, Gotz could write, play cards, direct a horse, even hold a lance. The hand is preserved today in a museum that was once Gott's old castle. Unfortunately, the genius that created this hand was lost to history, likely killed by Gott so he could never make another.
Groovy.
Besides possibly being the first person to say "kiss my ass," dude was literally a clockpunk. The Difference Engine, first created by Charles Babbage, it's an automatic mechanical calculator designed to tabulate polynomial functions. Its name is derived by the method of dividing differences. Basically, it's a big-ass calculator that uses gears, not silicon chipsets, to reach an answer. The next upgrade up would have been the Analytical Engine. It would have been the first mechanical general-purpose computer, and in the 1800s. Too bad such badass can't be real. Oh wait, people are working on it right now. Cherry on top of that, since some planets out there are not quite so computer friendly, NASA is working on an analog rover to explore them. My recommendations. Clockwork Planet. Old world got blown up. The cause? Not specified. Clearly Karens were to blame. I joke, but I think the series' big bad was a militarized Karen. Anyway, a god called Y reboots the world. This one built on the back of Clockwork. Everything from gravity, we have later learned that the planet is hollow, to the weather is controlled by a complex series of gears, similar to a god-tier analytic engine. Y also left behind some angels. Fetish Lolita dolls. Automatons. No, wait, I mean Lolita fetish dolls. Raizu and Anchor are two of these automatons linked up with a Model B mass production anime protagonist. With their crew, they try to weed out corruption on their planet, save the day, and in the world more than once, but treated like enemy number one. Also gear-powered mechs. Clockwork Angels, Rush album. A young man's quest across a lavish, colorful world of steampunk. Was what the tin says. In reality, it's more clockpunk and alchemy, as he attempts to follow his dreams. The story features lost cities, pirates, anarchists, exotic carnivals, and a rigid watchmaker who imposes precision on every aspect of daily life. Being honest, I never thought this gig would get me to listen to a Rush album. Not that I had anything against Rush, just I was never exposed to it. I liked it a lot. Had progressive rock feels, and that's not really my thing, but the hard rock undertones blended well make a fun album. Hugo. This was so not the movie I thought I was walking into. First, I thought it was going to be a Clockpunk retelling of Pinocchio. Nope. Okay, then I thought it was about an automaton with a secret message worth killing Yanrog over. Nope. So what's it about? It's actually a really tragic story about the first sci-fi movie maker, George Méliès. It's very fictionalized. He really did get screwed over for a while, but was eventually rediscovered and placed properly in history. How do I feel about Clockpunk? I'm a fan. Full disclosure, when I first started researching this one, I got really bummed out. Most of the discussion around this one seems to be whether or not it should exist. If its existence is just splitting hairs and it should just be rolled into diesel or steam, or a question that has and will come again if the very act of categorizing forms of punk is a good thing or a bad thing. A topic for another day. That being said, it's a fun world to walk around in. As much as I love the neon grudginess of cyberpunk, we do lose the ornate prioritizing function, and holograms don't count. While, like a beautiful watch, Clockpunk finds a balance between both. I'm not a computer scientist or a student of history, so finding out about inventions like the analytical engine really does make clock feel more like a road not traveled for our current timeline. What if we did have a room-sized computer in 1800s? Other than a holy war between the church and the followers of the gear. What would the past make the now look like? Also, zombie clockwork Nazis. That's just fun right there. I am, however, surprised I never ran into anyone using gears as a weapon. Gear-powered weapons, swords with gears on them, but not just gears. Sign-out question. Is there a difference between a soul made of clockwork and one made of silicon? I think with the advent of humanoid robots in fiction, both antagonists and protagonists, the idea of one being sapient is an outside possibility. Whether or not you believe that is irrelevant to this question, just that it is possible. What about one made of clockwork, springs and spriggets? That didn't look like 7. Could they be, as one Mr. 5 once stated,
how do I feel? I feel alive!
I say yes, the universe is so vast and unknown that it's mathematically possible none of us exist. So why not a clockwork soul? I'd prefer something a bit more like the Major, but point still stands. Put your own answer in the comments and get a discussion going. Well, this has been What's Up, punks. Till next time, remember, punk heroes don't wear capes, they wear customized jackets. You like blood, violence, freaks in nature? Well then come on down to Captain Spaulding's Museum of Monsters and Madmen. And remember to clean the filters on your gas mask. But keep on being a no-good, dirty punk. You know it, you love it, here's the spiel, let's do it. Hit subscribe to be my subscriber. Hit the bell so you know when I've actually posted stuff. Still no idea why those two things are separate now, but whatever. And of course, hit like to appease the algorithm gods. All fear and praise. On a list of whatever YouTubes, I am also probably not going to get any ad revenue for these videos, so if you would be so kind, check out that Patreon and the GoFundMe. Links in the description.